Gun to the back of your head. Name every single shake in Davinci Resolve.
All right, bro. Don't shoot. All right, check me out. Camera shake CHK, BCC camera shake, Universe camera shake, Sapphire shake, Insane
There's
shake,
more.
Ikawa camera shake,
You're
CHK.
forgetting a couple. You're forgetting.
What do you mean I'm forgetting a couple?
You forgot about F-Shake V4.
No! I counted 32 different shakes just in my version of Davinci Resolve with all the macros and plugins that I've found over the years. And there have to be more out there, considering how many creators love to make macros and their own custom shakes. It is time for all of you to switch to F-Shake V4. This is not a recommendation, this is a promise. It is better than all of the other shakes. Let's introduce the problems that were present before. Sapphire Shake had the problem of extra lag, being a plugin that is hundreds of dollars, not everyone being able to run it, crashing Davinci, but being widely used in After Effects and other apps, so it has to be used, right? Well, F-Shake took the math and the UI of S-Shake and put it into Davinci Resolve in a lag-free format. Next, motion blur. On a lot of camera shakes, the motion blur is really laggy. Due to F-Shake V4 being a fuse file, that means the motion blur does not lag and it is GPU accelerated. And one last thing, this shake is completely free. My name is CloutVFX, and today we're going to be looking over F-Shake V4. Lock in and let's get into it. So here I am in Fusion with my anime clips right here. We have Gojo and Toji looking at each other. Now you may notice that I added a posterized time node at the end. For you editors that are a little bit new, the standard editing frame rate is 24 FPS. Some people go a little bit lower, some people go even higher. Some people edit in 60 FPS. But when you want the shake to come out as intended, you need to make sure the correct FPS is chosen. That's why this time-based drop-down menu is very, very important. By default, if you have a 24 FPS timeline and all that, you probably wouldn't have to worry. It'll pick up on your comp FPS, which is 24, and play it as so. But my comp is 60 FPS, so I have to change it to override FPS and 60. The shake comes out as intended. I'm gonna put it back to 30 FPS, right? And it's a little bit more jittery, it's like in 2 times speed. So in order to have the shake work properly, make sure that it is at the correct FPS. Or don't. The first step that I usually do is put the amplitude down to 0 and then go where I want the shake effect to happen. So like right in between the eye transition here. And then I'm just going to make it trail down like that. So we got a shake like that. I'm gonna go into my graph and adjust it. Then I'm going to go down here, click on motion blur, enable it, turn up samples. And with a little bit of finesse, I now have a nice shake transition like this. If you change the frequency, it'll change how quickly the shake moves. And if you have motion blur turned on, this frequency will become very, very handy when making those twitch shakes. So there are 3 styles that you can pick from with F-Shake. The normal style, which is controlled by the X, Y, Z, and tilt controls down on the bottom. And then there is twitchy, which looks a little bit like this, and jumpy, which is a little bit crazier like this. And that is controlled using the twitchy/jumpy tab right here. Now, let's say I turn stillness all the way up to 1, nothing will happen. But if I turn it all the way down, there won't be a single frame where it isn't moving. And you can still control the X, Y, and Z positions in twitchy and jumpy mode. So you have best of both worlds. Now, let's say I want to do a shake at the start of the clip. I'm gonna crank up amplitude all the way up, go a couple frames forward, put it back down to 0, and make a graph like this, right? This is a very common style of shake where at the start of the clip, it is really, really intense, and then it goes down like that. Now, in order to make this look good, you do need motion blur turned on, but by default, it will look something like this. This is not intended, obviously, but since we don't lag, you can literally crank up samples all the way up, and now it will look like directional blur. Now, if you want to have a little bit more control over the motion blur, there is a different motion blur mode called time samples. The time samples is a more exact looking frame of motion blur. And this is where a lot of the motion blur controls come in handy, such as the shutter bias, which will show the furthest and closest to the camera. You can mess around with that slider. Subsample jitter, which changes the in-betweens from like really jagged like that to just duplicates. And then Gaussian sharpness, which pretty much sharpens up the motion blur, I'm pretty sure. And again, all of this is not laggy at all, so you can make this to your liking and change it to your heart's content. Me personally, this is a technique that I learned from After Effects that I'm porting over to Davinci Resolve, and it is a method of building your shakes out. What do I mean by that exactly? So you can start off by getting F-Shake V4 and turning the amplitude on 0, and then making multiple copies of it. Usually 2 to 3 does the trick for me. And what you want to do when you make your shake, right? Let's say I want it to be here again. When you make your shake and you do adjustments, you use multiple nodes in one, like multiple shake nodes, to build out the effect that you want. So I'm kind of just feeling it out by playing it back here. Let me make sure the FPS is on 60. I kind of want this shake to look like it's zooming in a little bit. So I'm going to go to the second F shake node, keyframe here, turn up the amplitude, and then I'm going to change the Z amp, and then I'm going to change the Z phase to control exactly how I want it to zoom in on that frame. And then I'm going to turn down the amplitude again like that. And I'm not really a fan of that. Let me crank it down a little bit more. Maybe turn down the frequency. Okay, that's still really intense. Okay, hold on. So that's the thing about these kind of shakes. You have to figure out a way to build them out and feel for it. So there you go, that's a bit better. And then I'm gonna go to this other shake. I'm gonna go to the third one, and I'm going to build out a little bit of rotation on a lower frequency. So I'm gonna put some tilt in there. I'm gonna turn down the Y and X, and I'm just picking values that feel nice, right? And I think towards the end, I'm going to turn the amplitude down even more. Let me take my graph and do something like this. Now, you don't have to directly copy exactly what I'm doing, but I'm just showing an example of how you would build a shake. So with these 3 nodes right here, completely different keyframes on all of them, completely different values on all of them, and even different FPSs. I can build a completely custom shake that is moving exactly how I want it. You have so much control with F-Shake V4, and I can't wait for you guys to try it. Like, this is absolutely amazing. Now, let's say you do have some edges, like here on the corners and whatnot. Those can be changed. A common practice is to take a transform node and just zoom it in a little bit during the shake, or just like slightly crop in and just like compensate for being cropped in, and then just keyframing once the shake is done. Or you could pick lower values so you don't get edges. Now, if you thought I was just going to make a video on only F-Shake V4, you are completely mistaken. There's another shake that he made called Dissolve Shake V2. This is to kind of copy off of Sapphire's Dissolve Shake. And the Dissolve slider at the top transitions between 2 different points. So let's say I can get a red background here, for example, right? And plug that into the green input. As I change the dissolve slider, it's going to transition it over while also doing the shake. Some editors prefer to use dissolve shakes over regular shakes. It's kind of just up to preference. So pick your poison, do what you want, but pretty much it's the exact same controls as F-Shake, just with these dissolve sliders at the top. So if I were to make a keyframe on dissolve, turn this up, turn this back down like that, and then let's change the frequency. I can just worry about changing the dissolve slider instead of the amplitude and frequency, and I still can change the amplitude and frequency if I want to, but using the dissolve slider like this kind of makes the process a little bit easier, in my opinion. Again, complete freedom of choice. So that concludes the tutorial on both F-Shake V4 and F-Dissolve Shake. If you feel like I missed anything, make sure to just send me a message on Discord and I can answer you. And make sure to check out Fruki's YouTube channel. He makes a lot of cool edits, and he's definitely making waves in the Davinci Resolve community in terms of making macros and fuses. So yeah, that's it, guys.